Okay.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Hi. We got music?
Nice announcement.
Good morning. All right, welcome to the Glens Falls Industrial Development Agency Board Meeting. This is July 11th, 2024. And just as a reminder to everyone, we're hoping to not meet in August, if possible, unless something of urgency comes up. So our next board meeting would be September 12th. We have a quorum. We have everyone here.
Not John.
Except for John. Dr. John Cordes is missing. Yes. Otherwise, we have everyone, all the other members here. All our staff are here. And let's go right to our administrative report from our CEO.
Just a point of order, because there's a lot of things in motion that are sort of time undetermined as yet. I may have Suzanne sort of send out an inquiry about people's availability, the potential availability in August. I don't see why we'd have to have a scheduled meeting, but if something comes up, we might have to have a meeting. So I might just check to see if are there any times when we can get enough people if necessary. So with that said, one of the reasons I'm asking the question is because we're really working right now. There are 3 projects that we're sort of focused on, all of which are trying to get financing in order, and all of which are trying to sort of put together packages of financing. One, of course, we got a revised application from Ryan Connor. He was the fellow who came from Union Square. He's in the process of buying that. We had a very productive call with HCR, with Darren Scott and some other Madeline Burke and Madeline, whose last names I can't recall right now, from HCR to talk about a possible financing program with them. I think one was called the PLP.
Yes.
The PLP and the CIF, the acronyms of which I can't remember what they meant, stood for. Community Investment Fund, I know is one. So although he gave us a revised, we looked at an initial draft of an IDA application. They're going to be seeking some help. It's really undetermined what their needs are going to be at this point, right? It's sort of, they're trying to put together the package of things they have. So I'm quite certain he'll be approaching us once we take a look at that and get back to him about until he has his sort of financing together. He doesn't know what he's asking for yet. And so, rather than just saying the blanket, here's our blanket standard thing, do you need it or not, we want to sort of wait and see what his financing is. The second project, of course, we had talked to, we've been in...
Can I just ask
yeah,
a
go ahead,
question
sorry.
related to that? Did Darren Scott advise that they're accepting applications for those programs right now? It's an open enrollment,
He didn't say one way or the other, but he was the one who was encouraging those programs. So he said that sounded very appropriate.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly sounded on the call like he was suggesting that would be something they investigate soon. So, but he didn't say one way specifically or the other.
So I would just, even for you guys, I would go online and check their those application systems, see if it's.
You say it is open enrollment, or is it part of? It's not like part of the CFA.
If it's part of an RFA,
CFA.
If it's a part of the CFA or part of some other request for proposal program, and they'd have to wait for that to be issued, then we're going to be waiting.
Okay.
Okay. But if the forms are available and they're accepting applications now, then that would be good for us in terms of when we meet. And then also, as I had suggested to you by email, they have a much more detailed development and operating budget form. And if they're going to be filling that out for the State Housing Agency, let's accept
They
that
can just use that as
here
in
and
lieu
use
of
that, because that will tell us all of the funding that would be part of that project,
Yeah.
both in terms of the development and operating costs, which would help us. Because right now, you said they're revising their application, but I don't think they submitted a budget.
Yeah.
So take that budget instead of they're doing a duplicate
In lieu
budget.
of the one we would need anyway for us.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
And maybe Darren advised him to work with someone if he's never done this before. Maybe Darren advise them to get some help from someone? I don't, unless you guys are gonna be their advisors
No.
on these applications, they're not simple.
I shan't be the advisor on this.
Nor me.
So
Nope.
hopefully Darren gave them,
I believe that's the
Yeah.
first time we've heard shan't used it.
I shan't.
I shan't.
Want to get one of those in. Okay, so thank you for that, Judy, and we'll certainly pursue it. He's also, one of the issues is that that building was also eligible for historic tax credits, right? So I told him to get in touch with one of the local architects who's working with these kinds of projects, because I think, again, there's a number of different things down there that he could look at. Things like opportunity funds are not going to be relevant for them. His big challenge, I think, is that his initial plan was sort of do it as we go, right? We don't have tons of money, but we're going to do this. And I said, the collective wisdom was, no, you want to try and get all this done now, because you're going to get one bite at whatever apples you're going to have in front of you. So that's the plan for that. Second, and somewhat similar situation, at least from our perspective, is we're continuing to work with Foothills Builders down on the Peggy George property. I keep referring to that on Warren Street, down near the corner of Warren and Oakland. There's a few sort of lingering things. One is an ongoing sort of environmental assessment challenge. We've got phase 1s and phase 2s, some are recent, some are old, various assessments of what we need to do and how much it's going to cost. We do have an EPA grant. There's not enough funding left in the grant to fund the entire project. They're trying to determine when they need it. In the meantime, Jim Thatcher and I, who's working with them on the Restore New York grant for that project. And we've gotten some feedback, some follow-up from ESD. So I have a feeling that they're looking hard at this project, but we were told that there's a lot of competition for it. So my guess is that what's going to happen is we will get something, but not what they were asking for, which means we've got more gaps. We've also been in contact with there's what they call a high impact fund that NBT Bank has called CEI Bulos, and they essentially are a community investment fund sponsored by NBT that in their banking region focuses on investments in community-centric projects, we want to call it that. Things like subsidized housing and community facilities in challenged areas, economically challenged areas. So again, we're putting lots and lots of things together. He's Joe Lucci, one of the owners. There's two Joe Lucci's, father and son, who run the business. Joe Lucci Jr. has given us some preliminary budget information which we needed for the Restore grant. But again, until we have an idea of what they're going to do, the IDA can't really respond to them in any meaningful way. And then finally, on that front, and I believe in the LDC agenda, there's a resolution to approve the sale, I should say, of the property in Tech Meadows on Luzerne Road. I don't know if anybody noticed as you were walking in, but Kyle Brock, the fellow from Crew, was there. And he just wanted to make sure if he needed to be here, and I said not for our purposes now. He did drop off some revised drawings that they got done that I'll scan and send these out to everybody, or we can make copies, whatever works for you. He's in the same sort of situation. He doesn't really know his financing stack yet, and so as far as an IDA application. So it seems that all these projects right now, there's a lot of activity going on, but people are still, challenged by the finances, right? We're acutely aware of that because we've been dealing with it on the project I haven't even mentioned yet for 3 years plus. But there's a lot of activity, and it's interesting to see things are going on Warren Street, things are going on South Street, things are now going on Tech Meadows. So there's a lot of projects and a lot of moving parts in each one of the projects. So it's a lot to put one's head around, and which is why I'm trying not to do too many things preliminarily that may end up being sort of wheel spinning exercises.
So that project would require us to do, I think, a public hearing too. And so, in order to get notification.
Which of that?
Yeah, so that
The
part.
Tech Meadows would be a pilot. Well, maybe both of them would be pilot, maybe all of
Anything
them.
over
Maybe all of them.
100,000.
Yeah, so yeah, I think that,
Say it again.
Any project that has incentives, benefits over 100,000, we have to have a public hearing.
Then I would guess they all will.
Yeah.
so the advance, so in terms of if we're gonna meet in August, I just wanna say that, we need more time, not just for the members to gather, but for you to get that notification in the paper, and get that published.
Gotcha.
And what do we have to do it, how many days in advance?
It's gotta be, it has to be 10 days in advance, but if you want to allow for that to be scheduled, then I would do a resolution today saying that you authorize Jeff and I to work on getting publication notices out if these applications come
Yeah.
together.
Pending, yeah.
Sure.
That will save us an August meeting just for that, which would be,
Yeah.
which would be a waste of our
Yeah.
time.
Which I think
Right,
is
just meet to
which
offer.
sounds like is wishful thinking, but it's always good to
Yeah,
push
right.
it and
Back-
be
back
available
pocket,
to do
right,
it. if
exactly.
it
Yeah, if
happens.
there's any way, yeah, I will apologize in advance if we ever have to call meetings for some procedural thing that we could have taken care of in a regular meeting, so
Right,
you have to forgive me now because I just apologized.
so,
A resolution to,
In terms of scheduling, most of us probably block this Thursday off on our schedules. Do you wanna, I don't know that.
I'm
that's-
not.
Yeah,
I'm in Maine,
you're in Maine,
I don't think
okay.
I'm here either.
You're
Let me
not
see.
here either.
because
Yeah, the 8th it is.
I'm
It
the
would be
reason there is
August
no
8th.
August meeting back in the Ed days because of me.
Well, as I say, I mean, my suspicion is that if we end up having one, it may not fit the.
Yeah, I don't think
calendar
it'll come
anyway.
together by August 8th.
Right,
depending
right,
on
so-
what- based on what you're saying.
That's what I say, I'll have Suzanne sort of, send an email out to say, when are you not available? And we'll find.
we have an authorization to allow Jeff and Terry
Right,
to.
you're making that motion, right?
Yes, I'd like to make
Should-
that motion.
Should it be
Should it
necessary,
be necessary to work on setting a date and making public
Public
notice
notice.
thereof?
For these projects,
For
Second.
the project.
yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry,
Got that moving.
Any nays, any abstentions? Being none, it's passed, thank you. So,
The other,
I would also just make sure that their applications are truly complete. They've got, I think that the budgets are the more difficult parts. The other document information is easier for them to put together, but, we need to see those budgets
Yeah.
and how the financing is gonna work, all right?
Yeah, and I can table any other comments until we get further down there.
right,
Okay, very good. All right, thank you, sir. I have nothing to add to that, so let's go right to our minutes from the meetings, the meeting that was held on June 13th. Everyone's got a copy of that. Any questions, any changes? There being none, is there a motion to approve the June 13th meeting minutes from 2024 as presented?
so moved.
second?
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
They are passed, thank you. We'll get those posted too. Financial report for 6 months ending June 30, 2024. Mr. Toomey?
There's 3 items, booked CD interest for $311, one legal bill for $400, and payroll 40%, $260. That's it.
Okay. We've got enough money in there to cover the costs for the bills we're gonna do right now because they're almost $10,000 worth of bills.
Yep,
We're good?
yep.
Okay. Any questions for Mark? There being none, is there a motion to approve the financial report for June 30, 2024?
So moved?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is passed. We'll get that posted as well. So our Schedule A, payment of bills, is attached. And there are 6 bills to be paid for a total of $9,758.50. Any questions about those? There being none, is there a motion to pass Schedule A as presented and for the payment of those bills?
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion is passed. Bills shall be paid. I can sign after. Any other reports? There being none, let's go right to project reports. And we'll start with Market Square.
Yeah, so just to sort of combine the first two there. So as you know, if you've been going by, you know, the Market Center building is moving. It's a little more slowly than we'd like, or at least visibly, because there's we're dealing with still with some of the utility stuff that has to be taken care of. We just recently pulled the pole down, the National Grid pole in the middle of the site earlier this week.
I was
Which was-
hoping to have a ribbon cutting. For that.
Yeah, we should get a demo ball.
Pole tossing,
Right.
yes, we
It
could have
was-
brought some Highland
Right,
games.
exactly.
It was a, doesn't matter. At any rate, that's moving at pace. The streetscaping is all moving, and according to Jeremy Schneibel, should be done by close to the end of this month. As you know, the big driving deadline we're working with, and that Andy Allison, Jim Thatcher, and I have been working with DOS on, is the Pocket Park. Because the Pocket Park they're still on a September 30th deadline for that. Now, what we're trying to figure out is what that deadline means. Does it mean you've purchased all the things that you're going to have, that you're going to be looking for, or does it mean there it is and you can go in and sit on it? So we're trying to figure out ways. There's also some of the work. It's a perhaps tragic but interesting irony anyway, that you know, we were one of the challenges we ended up with, and I don't want to go too far afield here, but one of the challenges we ended up with on the site was that we were not able to connect to our stormwater system in South Street because of this National Grid duct bank they had. So we ended up having to do a green infrastructure that technically would qualify for the green infrastructure grant that the streetscaping and pocket park money is. Now the real challenge now is, do we try and change the scope to fit the grant or vice versa in the time? And it's just a lot of things that are, I think we're trying to figure out the path of least resistance to get us to the end that keeps everybody happy. So we're making some progress there. As I understand it, we met with the bank, when I say we, the purchasing and controller department, and some folks from Glens Falls National, who's financing Bonaccio's Phase 1 project. And just to go through the process to make sure that we can get all of our payments. The challenge we have here, of course, is that there's 3 different grants on essentially the same property that all need to be are at various stages of completion or process or progress, and we're trying to sort of make sure that we have the paperwork together for all of them simultaneously, which are they're intersecting but not overlapping projects.
Jeff, related
Yeah.
to that, this has been an ongoing issue though, about getting Phase 1 up and started. And the closing on Phase 2 is, as you know, what I do in my livelihood. That is going to take some time. They should not be connected.
They're not. In fact, Kara, I think we have we have some recent information. Now, we were planning to close, as you remember, we were planning to close on July 22nd.
Yeah.
The problem they had is that the bank didn't get the approval. They didn't have the appraisal from their independent appraiser in time to get it on the June 30th meeting. So
Their board
they had to
meeting
push it to the July 31st meeting, which
Yeah.
now means we're going to have to close on August 22nd. They're still looking to start work in September. So, you know, that's on Phase 1. So they're not holding up. We're not holding up. There are things holding up, but they're just procedural. And I know, Carrie, you were in touch with Lydia.
Yeah, I spoke to Libby, and so the Glens Falls National Loan Committee meets on July 31st to consider it, but they probably won't have any paperwork out until the following week, and so then she's got to coordinate. She said she's going to include me on an email with a variety of attorneys that are involved in this. She said she thinks there's about 7, so that should.
Great.
That'll smooth it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I did say that doesn't sound like a.
Yeah, it did sound like an explosion. But we live in hope.
They all get paid to find problems.
Well, and this is getting back to what I was saying, you know, if we're not having an August meeting, is there something that we can anticipate that this body or the LDC might have to address between now
Yeah,
and...
as of right now, there's nothing that we need to approve before we can proceed. The IDA is already approved the updated application and the pilot, and that's a contingency of the financing. So we're trying to figure out, it's kind of like what comes first. The bank wants there to be a pilot, but we can't have the pilot, we can't sign the pilot until they take title to the property so we can do the lease transaction with them. So there's a lot of, are they, you know, can they just buy the property and then we do the lease and then we close with the bank, or, you know, we're trying, logistically there's, or is this all gonna happen at the same time, which could be quite
Nightmare.
There should be food
Right.
and perhaps alcohol.
And fire,
and
fireworks. And fireworks.
Right.
in this transaction.
We'll be fine if you don't invite me to that.
Right.
You'll have plenty to sign.
Yeah, the good news about all that is that that is not germane to the deadline issue that we're
Right.
dealing with the
Yeah.
LS.
Right.
So
All
we're not
true.
being impacted by
That's
that.
good.
Empire State Development seems to understand these things as well as we do, the timeframes.
And
So
it doesn't appear, if you can say generically, doesn't look like anybody's stalling. This is just the details that need to fall into place.
Yes.
And how they fall into place is taking, they missed a deadline in the end of.
well, they just didn't have the appraisal back from the
Yeah.
appraisal.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
but again, so,
And
I
that's
mean, this
actually
is like closing,
good
sounds
news
like
for
closing on
America,
the house.
that appraisers are that busy that they just pushed this
Oh.
project back.
Okay.
So I mean, we're seeing this and it's actually, you know,
So it's
not
an
bad
indication
news.
somebody's dragging their
Right.
feet,
No.
No.
trying to get
It's
out of
just-
anything. This is all happening,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is it-
that's
good
the
assessment?
message I've been getting, yes.
All right.
That this is happening.
And that the appraisal is in now,
Appraisal's in.
It is.
so.
Gotcha. Okay.
They received it, I think, like the end of the month. They just didn't have it on the agenda. They couldn't look at it in time for the meeting.
Yeah.
And
Which
they
is the
have a
last-
date of September, I know it's always, these are tentative, September to break ground,
Yeah, that's.
right?
they're
So
looking
that's
at-
not gonna change.
Larry,
It's not like they're gonna push back 30,
You
because
can
they
order
could
your
wait
hard
30
hat,
days.
okay?
I-
With your
I-
name.
Yes, I was hoping, yeah, gold plated.
Right.
Go ahead, all right.
That's my understanding, that that's part of the logistical issues, is that the actual people that are gonna be doing the work are lined up, and
Yeah, we
they're
can't get
trying to
going.
fit everything
Yeah.
into this window to get all these closings to occur, so that they don't have to push
'Cause they'll
that
lose them.
group back.
They'll lose their
Right.
subs
Yeah.
to something else.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a lot of moving pieces. I said, well, we'll cooperate however we need, all of our approvals are in place, so,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, yeah, they're pushing us. as much
I
as
think in terms of the IDA, I think our work is done other than signing some of those documents.
Right, they've got our
It's
resolutions,
probably more
they've got our
complicated
minutes.
for the LDC because we own the, you know,
Right.
LDC owns two of the properties.
Right, but we've approved those
Yes,
transfers,
yes,
so,
right.
I mean,
Sign.
we've drafted documents and circulated those for review. Their title company is working on an update. The original title report they had was from like a year ago, so they've got to update that. So there's just a lot of, and a lot of people that aren't, like third
But
parties
there's-
that are kind of handling some of these
Right.
side things.
But there shouldn't be, the title shouldn't
No,
hold up
there
because
should-
there's been no
there should be
activity,
no-
so
yeah, there should be no
that's just a
issues.
blessing.
Right.
You know, it's not a work, so.
And then, of course, I mentioned crew, you know, we've touched base, you know, they had approached me and said, you know, they could theoretically, I guess they've been in touch with the Warren Washington IDA. And I said, no, this is in the city limits, so we'll sort of take that task on of working with them on their application for IDA support. And that's all I have for the moment.
Okay. Any other business? There being none, there's no need for an executive session. I'll call for an adjournment.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned, and we'll see if we meet in August. If not, I'll see you in September.
There's a song about that.
Turn it over to you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, if we're gonna sing the song, let's get it over. Where do we need to go?
Sorry, I can't help it with the song cue. That's the way it is.
So good morning and welcome to the Greater Glens Falls Local Development Corporation. It's still July 11th, 2024. We'll call this meeting to order. We do have a quorum and we have our staff present. I think we begin with administrative report. I don't have a CEO report, or we don't have a CEO report, do we, Pat?
We don't, nope. We have things to speak about later, yes.
Right. So, under administrative report, you've all received the minutes held on June 13th, 2024. Are there any questions or comments about the minutes? Not hearing any. We have a motion to approve the minutes of June 13th LDC meeting.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Then we have our financial report, 6 months ending June 3rd. Mark, please.
Yeah, excuse me, income wise, we got that drive, Glens Falls Drive, wire transfers for Charles Wood Theater and the Park Theater. That's 116, plus there's 4,000 plus in there for admin expenses that will eventually transfer over to LDC after.
Right.
Bonadeo, last audit payment was $7,800 under accounting. Legal bill, 192. 2 insurance checks, one for Chuck for $1,772, and one for the typical monthly Gallagher for $1,283.
Mark, would you just do me a favor and remind the board what those two are, those two insurances?
The Gallagher is just our monthly liability, and then the Chubb was for the employee officer fraud. And so the annual
Right.
payment we make.
Good, okay.
And then payroll, 60% of me for $380. That's it.
Any questions for Mark? Comments? If not, do we have a motion to accept the financial report for 6 months ending June 30th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Thank you very much. Disbursement of grant funds. I'll turn this over to you, Pat.
Sure, so unlike Jeff, who is talking about trying to figure out what money people need, I want to spend money, but we've already gotten grant money that we've gotten received from a variety of different people. So the first one is a grant payment to Downtown City Tavern. There was an agreement, not quite sure how long ago, between the LDC and Downtown City Tavern to do a renovation project, a facade project, if you will, on the front of their building. They used that for the updates on the tent and the parking area so they could have more space for people to eat. So they've, the first payment we approved in October, the first half of this payment, this is the second half of that 50% payment. They paid $50,000. We will ultimately pay them $25,000. This is the final $12,000 that we owe them for that work. And then the second two, as Mark noted, are the final two transactions of the DRI Fund for Downtown Revitalization, which, as you may remember, was the nonprofits and the GF Drive, and I'm forgetting one of them, and the facade. So these two projects, one was $100,000 of a $220,000 project for the Wood Theater to replace their HVAC system. And if you were in City Hall the day that they did it, the truck putting the HVAC systems up on top of the Wood Theater was as big as the parking lot next door to the City Hall. Those things were huge. The second piece is an internet connectivity project that the Park Theater was doing to upgrade their ability, their Wi-Fi, but also their ticketing and internal kind of internet connections. So, and that's 11,000. Forget the number right off the top of my head.
536.
Thank you, very good. Okay, so and those two with the admin money that will go into the operational account are the final transactions for that DRI grant, which means that we've now closed 3,
Right.
and there's 2 left of the DRI grants. So that's it, and I would call for a motion, but I think that's the mayor's job.
Sure. Any questions about these payments? If not, do we have a resolution to approve the final payments under these projects under the DRI Fund for Downtown Revitalization Initiatives?
So moved.
we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. Then payment of bills. Back to you, Mark.
Okay, other items, other than what Patrick just mentioned, one legal for $496, my June hour, 60% for $294. The monthly installment for Gallagher Insurance for liability, $1282. CEO wage for $1562. One Whitmore bill for $307 for the 1099s. And one CG mail bill for $1,280. And that's it.
Great, thank you. Any questions about the payment of bills? Do we have a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
of drama.
Right, exactly.
Project reports, Market Center, Market Square updates.
One thing before we get to that and other reports, we'll call it needed. A piece of very good news, I found out yesterday morning that that Flight has signed the documents agreeing to settle with Mike Cadiz and Empire Theater. So the agreement that was approved last month by this body was to have Cadiz is going to pay off the USDA loan. That was about 11,000 something,
11,400.
including the interest that was accrued. So that will be closed out. We'll actually have done what it was supposed to do, which was loan money out, get it back with a little bit of interest attached. And then they're also going to take assignment of the GF Drive equipment that is in Flight, or the former Flight. And then they're looking at they have a very strong tenant opportunity there, a local who's returned, who's looking at a potential restaurant. I won't go into more detail of that right now. But there's also then on the other side, on the deli side, they've got 3 different potential tenants that are sort of vying for it. All of whom have been simply waiting until this issue was settled. So fortunately, it didn't take too long. So that's great news. So the LDC will be made whole, the USDA loan, and the GF Drive thing will be assigned as we've done twice previously.
That's right.
Can you talk about
Thank
the
you.
new tenant, or?
I guess we could. I mean, it's Jacob White, who is Mike White's son, is a chef who was most recently in St. Croix as a personal chef, but had run, and some are familiar with, maybe here, a restaurant that he and his former wife had run in Boston, that I believe was a tapas restaurant that was of some
Renown.
repute. Yeah, renown. And so it was, I know Judy has been there, I think Amy's been there, Amy Collins has been there, they all rave about it. So we were excited. He was actually I don't know what this is. They were looking at a location in Saratoga and had problems with the location. And it just so happened that I was talking to Mike White about something unrelated. He said, my son's come back, and he has a partner who's Chris Matt, who's here, and had been talking months and months ago about a partner of his that makes this unbelievably good ice cream. So it sort of faded off as they were looking at Saratoga. I never put the two together until, because one's a tapas restaurant, one's an ice cream guy. But apparently they belong together, and so this uses something like, I don't know, octopus or squid or something in his ice cream that makes it the most savory ice cream you can imagine. Don't ask me, but trust whatever the people are telling me. So anyway, in fact, they're so interested in the space that they're, at some point they were talking about, trying to figure out ways to expand if that were possible. So anyway, very good news, and they'd be a great tenant down on South Street.
It was serendipitous.
It was serendipitous.
Street of Dreams strikes again.
There you go.
All right. Also, Jeff, do you want to at least, or Pat, talk about, I believe all of you know that the subcommittees are now meeting, and will continue to meet, and we're working on, I think, trying to get some equipment lists, a generalized equipment.
Yeah,
list.
just very quickly on that, relevant to the Market Center, Market Square, is that Jim Thatcher is working with us on trying to, Empire State Development has a new grant, called capital grant, as part of the CFA, And it is a very, very good match for the fitting out of Market Square. So we are trying to work, and it's very unusual in that it's a 50-50 grant most of the time. ESPs of 80-20 grants. So it's a great opportunity, and we're looking to see it, to fill out an entire budget to try and get the, in some ways maybe both Market Center and Market Square, any kind of furniture, fixtures, equipment, anything.
Do we have to
along those
connect
lines.
them in order to make that work?
What's that?
Does there have to be a physical connection between the two in order to make that one grant work?
The grant is very vague
Okay.
about that. So we went down to one of the problems, for instance, and I won't go into much detail, but it was talking about, you know, the grant recipient has to own the property.
Yeah.
But then the further part of it talks about eligible expenses include leasehold expenses. I think, well, if you're the leaseholder, what do you can't by
You're not
definition own
the
the
owner.
property, you're not leasing it to yourself. So, and we asked them about that, they said, well, we'll look at that. So I think they were probably trying to give themselves, or at least giving themselves as much flexibility as
Yeah.
they can. So,
Yeah, that's,
Which is okay by us.
yeah, right.
And they're so familiar with the Market Center and Market Square.
Yeah,
and
right.
like, I know they're already in support of the project.
Right.
So,
Right.
Yeah.
you know.
We're optimistic about this.
Yeah. So, with that, do we have a motion to accept that report?
wait, you gotta do something about,
Oh, the
brew
resolution.
coffee, brew coffee.
Where am I?
Yeah, that's the, you're really gonna work on.
So yeah, there's
We were under
no,
reports,
On
Right.
reports.
For-
So,
crew.
yes, I mean, well, consideration of crew is next, so
Yeah.
just, that's, thank you for your report, Jeff, how's that? We don't need a motion.
Right.
Consideration of a resolution to sell the Luzerne parcel to Crew Coffee Roasters. Kara?
So we have received the contract, we've reviewed it and shared it with, Jeff and Pat. It includes it's just a standard sale contract, and then the buyer agreed to cover all the, LDC expenses, title, work charges, transfer tax, legal fees, etc. So, it's straightforward. They've signed it. We have the deposit, so we'll hold that until the time of the closing. And it has the typical contingencies that they need to make sure that they can get financing, that they're gonna get whatever approvals they need from the city. Also, the architectural review joint committee that's established for this particular park. The other piece is that, in accordance with public authorities law, we sent out the 90-day notice indicating that we were selling property that had a value over $15,000 to the state and about 8 different agencies. So that was sent out. So that 90-day period will expire September 24th. So I know there were some questions about how quickly we could close. That would be the earliest. But I think that's going to be,
Yeah, just.
they've got
financing.
stuff to
They got
do.
financing.
Their real concern that and Kyle was here was they were trying to they had to make a decision on whether they were able to move forward by July 31st to tell their current landlord whether they're gonna re-sign the
Yeah.
lease. So I think as long as there's no impediments other than time, I don't think that's a problem. They can
Well,
extend the lease.
there was a question about whether this 90 days was a period where we just had to sit and wait for something to happen, but I spoke with their attorney, explained that it's basically a notice. There's no, we don't anticipate a response or anything like that, so they can continue on with whatever their drawings, their submissions to the city.
If that's a notice though, what's the point of a period?
I'm not the person to answer.
Right.
Speak
All right,
to
never
the
mind.
legislators.
They
They wanna have time, I guess.
Right. It's having everybody have cause to not be able to come back and say, wait, we didn't know
I
about this,
gotcha.
that's all.
Yeah, I mean, we have to send it to, I mean, it's an interesting list. I mean, it's in your package, a copy of it. We have to send it out to, the state comptroller, the commissioner of the Office of General Services, the speaker of the assembly, the director of budget, the majority leader of the Senate, and then the acting director of ABO. So the only response I've ever received is from the ABO, and it's usually if they don't understand a term or something like that, but or our letter is confusing, but I have not heard anything. This was sent out on June 24th, or June 26th.
Okay.
And we've done other projects with notice, with the same notice provisions before there, so.
Yeah.
it-
Yeah, I mean, it's very clear that the appraised value came in at X, we're selling for appraised value, so there's no real,
That was the contention.
yeah.
So
And
do
that's
we-
the concern a lot of times, that if the sale price is below what the assessed value is.
It's the protection of the entities that we notice of public dollars, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so to just make sure that
Understood.
there's not
Yeah.
an under the table deal with some favored developer.
Yeah, and the other piece is that the law says, first, we have to put property out for public bid. Well, this property has been listed for a considerable amount of time, so this is considered under that section of public authorities law, a negotiated sale. So, we have to tell them, well, the reason why it's okay for us to do a negotiated sale
Second, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any abstentions or objections? Thank you. Motion passed.
Thank you kindly.
I do not believe I have any other business. Anybody else want to bring anything to the floor? I don't believe we need an executive session. So I would love a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Stand adjourned. See you in September unless otherwise notified.